That's so much better because then I can get to my normal speaking thing. All right. I'm looking out at you folks. I need you to start with something. If you're not eating, if you are eating, you don't have to do this. Everybody else, can you rub your hands together for me? Just rub those hands nice together. I want to sound like we didn't put on any hand lotion. I want to hit that sandpaper. All right, on the count of three, we're going to just one clap together on my count. One, two, three. Okay, just to get some body moving, feeling good. All right, friends, my name is Mark Thompson, aka Mark Texan. My wife is very clever, so she came up with Mark Texan. That's how you can find me online everywhere. It's really good SEO. And today I'm going to just talk to you about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is building the next generation of web apps with Angular. Now, what do? I work on the Angular team at Google, and I'm so thrilled to be here. This is actually not my first or second or fifth time being here. This is like my 20th time being here, either as a speaker or as a participant. And the really cool thing about this story is that I actually got my first start speaking here. And I am so grateful for this community and for all of you folks who continue to support Chicagoland meetups and Chicagoland web development. And big shout out to Joe for putting me on when nobody else would give me a shot. That really means a lot to me. I mean, dead serious. Nobody else would give me a shot and he put me on. So, and here we are now. All right, let's talk about this. So here's the big thing we're going to be thinking about when it comes to the web and this whole story. The web is definitely changing. And why do I say that it's changing? Who's been doing web development for at least 10 years? How about 15 years? Okay. Anybody here 20 years? Okay, so you've been doing it so long that what I'm about to say to you will make a lot of sense. So we're talking so much these days about server-side rendering and all of this stuff, right? But that's where we started. The first web app I ever built was a Perl script. Now, where did I put that file? Anybody remember the folder? CGI bin. How did I get it there? Was there a fancy pipeline? What did I probably do? I FTP'd it myself. I was the deployment, right? I was the CICD. You know how I continuously deliver it? I did it again, right? Oh, you made a mistake. There's an HTML character showing on the page because you didn't do it right. Do it again. Continuously deployed. That's how it was. And then about a month ago, something bananas happened that blew my mind. Adobe said we have Photoshop running in the browser. The reason it blew my mind is because when I started developing, we were still trying to make rounded corner buttons with JavaScript. You couldn't even do it without JavaScript, or you had to slice up an image that you actually made in Photoshop, put it in a table, and then attach some event handlers. So I've been around a long time, like many of you, so you know that I know that you know the web is changing. And then what's really wild is that the expectations are changing. And specifically for the users, we used to just deliver web apps that just had just forms with no types of styles, black and white screens, no colors, and everybody was happy because you could do something online. And like now they're expecting animations, they're expecting fast loading, they're expecting interaction, they expect more. And that's what's also changing in this story because the users just want more from you, right? Like even starting this whole conversation, Ernesto told me, he's like, hey, can you sign into Teams? And I said, only if I can do it from the browser. So even my expectations are different for the web as a user. I was like, yeah, I'll do it if I don't have to install anything. Users want more. And then you all as developers are not left out of this story because guess who else wants more? You. You want more, but you want more in a different path because you want better tools. You want better languages. You want better frameworks. You want a better developer experience because you have to meet the needs of those users. Angular has been around for a long time. We were one of the first frameworks just out at all, right? There was Batman, there was Knockout, there was Angular JS, right? And everything was great, and we were kind of leading the way as a platform, as a team. And then we did something really weird. Anybody can guess what we did that was weird? Angular 2, that's right. Angular 2 is a little weird because we made the same mistake that Nintendo made. Nintendo had the Wii and the Wii U, and nobody knew the difference. And up until maybe 3 years ago, people still didn't know the difference between Angular JS and Angular. And that did not help us and people seeing us as a modern framework, as a modern solution. But I can tell you that we've changed. But don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. Yeah, we've changed, baby. I promise you. Look, I'm different. I'm different. All right, and that's the story that I'm telling you is that we're different. But let me just tell you why. Let me just tell you why, and then you make the decision for yourself. How does that sound? Let me say, yeah. All right, I like that. Y'all did good. All right, first way we changed. I don't know if you saw last week, we announced our new brand identity. So we went from the red shield. Just you all are a very interactive audience. Does anyone know where the red shield came from? Yeah, it's a throwback. Do you remember when HTML5 first started? Yeah, that's what it was. So there was like the orange HTML5, the yellow JavaScript, the blue CSS, and the red shield. So I know. Someone's like, man, that's silly. Why y'all do that? No, it's true. It is a little goofy that we did that, but there's a reason for that because we were trying to say that hey, this is a safe space with this framework, and you can build a secure web app. So we're like, yeah, security, a shield protecting you, and then yeah. But this is our new brand. So check this out. And I think this thing looks amazing. I'm not gonna lie to you. When they first showed it internally, I was thrilled with this because this represents our new priorities and our modern features. So we have a modern brand identity for our modern features and our future priorities because we're not just sticking around and resting on our laurels, right? Like, yeah, we started a lot of stuff, but guess what happened in the meantime between when you had that first magical moment when you typed into a form field and then your whatever you typed showed up? That was magic. That was absolute magic. And that gave us a really big head start because before that, you had to write so much JavaScript. I was working at Blue Cross Blue Shield downtown on Randolph at the time. And I remember going to do that demo. And I remember thinking to myself, how much JavaScript did they have to write to make this work? And I saw it was a one-liner. And I'm like, okay, if I tried to do this in jQuery, even which had superpowers at the time, it still would have taken a lot of code. But Angular JS was like, yeah, one line, ng model, boom, curly braces on your template, and then you're done. What if I told you that we have another moment like that? That magic moment that is going to change the way that people write web development. You said you would? You would not. I'm glad you don't. So do this for me. Tell me the truth at the end. Just tell me the honest opinion at the end. Okay. Something that was changed. Brand new website. All right. So this is going to be that's it. Thank you. That's when I do like this, you all supposed to be clapping. Thank you. Thank you. Applause. Applause. Thank you. Thank you. So great. Okay. So we got a brand new website, but this website is definitely very cool because on the website, new documentation because we know that there are some opportunities for growth in our last documentation. So we rewrote it, and we're still rewriting it. This site is in beta. Okay. In browser playground. So now if you want to try out the new Angular features, because maybe or not, depending on how Joe feels, I might inspire you today to try it out. If I do, you can try it in the browser, no longer needing to go and install anything. You can try it right in the browser. And so here's my proposition to you that Angular is ready to meet the needs of the next generation of users, next generation of developers by helping you build the next generation of web apps. But how do we know that we can even do that? How? To be honest with you, we're an evidence-driven team. We gather feedback. We hear the things that are said. We read the blogs. We read the comments. We do user studies. Like we gather evidence. So here's a really amazing thing. We have our developer survey in 2022. We had more than 10,000 responses. And this is what people kind of ranked their like satisfaction percentage. They're really satisfied with some things, not so satisfied with other things. I know that's really small. It's not meant for you to read, but more of to let you know that this happened. But I'll tell you what's on there. Not so satisfied with server-side rendering, debugging, performance. I mean, who's ever satisfied? You can't even satisfy the developers. You can have stuff running at big old one, and y'all be like, man, it's not fast enough. All right, server-side rendering. All right, so let's talk about that part of the story. And here's the other thing you said. You wanted it to be easier to learn. Now, you cannot hurt my feelings. My feelings are not at risk. Have you ever heard or said Angular is hard to learn? Yeah, yeah, but Angular hard. Angular versus Angular JS, well, it was harder. I've heard it. I even said it when I was teaching people how to do React. I'm like, yeah, React is great because with Angular, you got to do all of this nonsense, right? Like for real. It's the real part of the story. And then here's the other problem: sharp edges. What do I mean by sharp edges? Having to understand how the internals of a framework works is a sharp edge. And it has been a part of the Angular story for a long time that you just have to know too much. Any Angular developers in here or have used Angular? Okay. Well, Angular. So Angular JS, remember we, you versus we, Angular JS. Okay, Angular. And the thing you probably had to learn about was zones at some point. Because change detection, which is our process for like how do you determine if the screen should be updated, right? The fact that you have to know what a zone is automatically tells me that you had to know too much. The average React developer does not have to worry about the virtual DOM. They just don't. Now, maybe a senior developer or an architect who's trying to like squeeze out the like highest performance, maybe, but the average developer, they don't know. You couldn't interview a junior React developer and ask them about the VDOM and have them to actually know what that stuff meant because they don't need to know because it's really well abstracted away. That is just a positive thing about React, right? So let's talk about how we changed the learning journey. Brand new in browser tutorial. Now, believe it or not, I actually wrote the tutorial. The brand new in browser tutorial, I actually wrote it, but I didn't write it in a vacuum, right? I wrote the outline and I started designing it. Then I got feedback from developers, from our Google developer experts, from our team, from some of the other engineers. Got feedback because we wanted to make a better learning experience. Okay. And if you like me and you like the way I teach, you could take that same tutorial in the browser, I'm sorry, in YouTube, right, with videos. And if you, but only go there if you like looking at really handsome people teaching you code. Okay, that's where you go there. You don't go there for any other reason. Okay, but wait, we want to continue the learning journey story. Okay, we want to continue that. So then we collaborated with this group called Solo Learn, and then we helped them to build an Angular course with their platform. Their platform is really interesting. It's like Duolingo, but for code. Now you may say, well, why would you do that? Well, I'll just tell you what happened when we released this with them. 70,000 developers took this course in the first week. Yeah. And this was with just their community because they saw the value in what Angular was bringing and the need for Angular developers. Because what's really weird is this: people who hire Angular developers are saying to us, like the Angular team, we can't find enough Angular developers. So we need to train more. And so this is how we're changing that story. New browser tutorial, video tutorials, partnering or collaborating with companies like SoloLearn to create these experiences for developers. But that's just a part of that story. Here's one thing that two things about Angular that we are constantly thinking about, even if it doesn't seem like it. The first thing is this: smooth updates. We want you to be able to update from one version to the next with as little friction as possible. And then we're actually always thinking about how can we do our part to evolve the web platform. Okay, what can we do? Now, there are other frameworks that have done really cool things that have made us all think like, wow, this is a great idea. And then other frameworks adopt it. So we're always thinking like, what can we learn? And then what can we do to help? Let's talk about those parts of the story. When it comes to the update experience, we've improved our tooling so much that up to 70% of developers, organizations using the Angular, they're 2 versions behind at the most, for 70%. Now, let's put that in context. We release 2 major versions per year. That's it. So go ahead, Joe. Yeah. Good question. Are these breaking changes that you need to migrate twice a year? Well, let me tell you why we what let me tell you how that story has changed. One of the things that we do now, so the question is this, like, is it actually smooth updates? You know, what are in these things? Everything that we do is backwards compatible. All of our major features are opt-in. Everything that I'll show you today is opt-in. So you can upgrade to version 17, which is the latest, but not use any of the stuff until you're ready. And then when you're ready, we give you what's called schematics, which are these updates. So it's kind of like, you know how Ruby on Rails had the thing where once if you build up a new database, you could rerun all the transactions to rebuild what you had. We have a system kind of like that, where we can help you upgrade your application. So if we change syntax, we'll give you an update path that'll just update your whole project with the new syntax. And if we can't do it, we'll tag it with to-dos to let you know that we couldn't do this part, but at least you'll know that there's a change that needs to be made. Again, still staying backwards compatible. We do not ship breaking changes, at least to our best of our ability, right? Like I can't say 100%, right? I mean, that's not possible, right? Yeah. But Mark, you promised 100%. But let me tell you how this is true. KLM, major airline, they get 500 million views per year, I think, on their website. They upgrade every time, and it takes them only a couple of hours. And they stay up to date with the latest. Now, this is a major organization. This isn't like, like Mark's app, like on my home laptop, right? A major organization. Okay, so they keep theirs up to date with the NG update process. I know it sounds like a really big, like a big problem. It's like, where's the other shoe gonna drop? Right? Go ahead. Yeah. Mm. That's a good question. It's an airline. Yeah, but it's 500, 500 million people per year. Good question. So do they always opt into all the latest features? Probably not. Neither does Cisco, right? But Cisco stays up to date with Angular too. They don't always opt into every feature, but they stay up to date. Yeah. Good question. How many apps internally at Google are being tested? Probably 2,500 at least, with every change that we make, which is why we can have so much confidence about our update process because we cannot break Google, right? All apps are on the same version of everything. So when we release a new version internally, all apps are using that version. So we cannot break Google. We just cannot. Yeah, good question. Yes, yes, absolutely. You ever use messages for the web? Okay. That don't mean it's not Angular though. He's like, I don't use it once, so that shit ain't Angular. No, it's no, it is Angular. It's still an Angular app. Then if you ever use Google Cloud Platform, that's an Angular app. Massive Angular app. You ever use Firebase? Their whole man, somebody's like, I don't use none of Google stuff. That stuff is horrible. Because everybody's like shaking their head, like, no, why would I use that? Okay. Yeah. Yes. I was gonna say, what are you saying, Joe? Yeah. Yeah. Angular app. Angular app. Yeah. But Google Cloud Platform again. So what teams refuse? Oh, good question. So what teams refuse to use Angular internally, right? So I can't give you any names of particular teams, but I can tell you why they would refuse. I can say why we refuse. We're really great at scalability, and we're excellent at scalability, the feature set, rich authoring experience, DX, and tooling. But then there are some tools internally at at Google, like one firm called Wiz, for example. They're blazing fast, faster than I can't really tell you metrics because I don't know the metrics off the top of my head, but they're blazing fast, right? And so that makes sense for them to not choose Angular because of their speed requirements are just not something that right now Angular can do. And so people choose the right tool for the job. So there are teams that are just like, yeah, we like the developer experience, but Wiz meets our performance needs at like the level that we have. And think about Google scale apps. So you might say, well, then why would you even choose Angular if there's a faster alternative? Yeah. Well, Wiz is just the internal framework. Yeah. Tell you more. What can I tell you? I don't know. I'm trying to think. What can I say without getting fired? No, I'm not gonna get fired. It's fine. It's fine. But Wiz is. But we've been talking to Wiz. Like, hey, what can we take from Wiz? What can you take from Angular? How can we partner and then get the best of both worlds for all of our customers? But we've been talking to them. Just communicating. Yeah. But it's the real thing though, right? And so, and remember about Google Scale, right? Google Scale is not like the average application that you can think of. Like we're not talking about like 100,000 users per year. We're talking about 100,000 users like per like minute or or in a second. So sometimes you do have applications that just have to withstand things that Angular is just not the best fit for. Yeah, but great question. Love it. Love it. All right. So I'm telling you about all this like learning journey stuff or whatever. But what's happening right now? Like, what are we doing right now that can back up what I said when I started that about the next generation of web apps? Okay, let's talk about some of that stuff. One, standalone APIs. Now, what does this mean? If you ever did Angular, don't try to read this code. Just acknowledge how long it is, right? Just see how much code that is to do a hello world. That is a lot. And if you ever use anything else, it's shorter. Literally, everything else is shorter than this because of this one concept called modules. At the time, we needed a way to manage all your dependencies in an application, especially for our DI system, right? For dependency injection. And so it's like, oh yeah, you put it in a module that can tell you what's available at which part of the application. Again, really good idea, but then we found that it became problematic at scale, right? Just problematic. So we fixed it. You can still use your modules because we don't ship breaking changes as best as we can. You can still use your modules, but new applications don't have to use them. And then you can go down to this. Now you can read this code. This is the whole application, right? This is a component. This is your bootstrap at the bottom. This is all of it to do hello world. Dramatically different experience because now if you're coming in from the outside looking in, you're like, oh, I can reason about this. So sure, the component decorator, okay, fine, I buy that. That's the way you do it. I buy that, right? And then you have your template. That's the whole template, just the HTML string. Or you could do it in a file if you wanted to, right? You can do whatever you want. It's very flexible. And then you got a class where you're going to put what? Your component logic. So this is the modern Angular developer experience, much different than what we had before when you're looking at something like this, where it's just like a lot going on. And it's confusing, especially to a newcomer to the framework. It's confusing. So we made it better. And then it fixed this problem. If I say modules, am I talking about JavaScript module? Am I talking about ng module? What module are you talking about? Who knows? Confusing. Well, now this part of the story isn't really as prominent anymore. If you're an organization that's using Angular and you're not ready to go to standalone without modules, okay, keep your modules. It'll still work. Get all the other stuff that you like. But if you want to do the modern developer experience, you can. Remember I was telling you about how we update people? This is the example of one of those commands, right? So we say ng generate at Angular/core : standalone. And what this will do is it'll prompt you and ask you, what do you want to do? Do you want to update one component in your app? Do you want to update all the components in a path? Do you want to update your entire application? How can we help you? How can we help you to update and migrate your application? So we ship these types of things whenever we make really big changes. And now, if you start a new application, it uses all the modern stuff by default, which sounds potentially obvious, but it's a really important point for people learning Angular, maybe coming back to Angular. Like, how do I get the new stuff? You just build an app now, right? You don't need any extra flags. Just start building your app. But wait, we're not even there yet. I know some of y'all just like, man, he made a big promise, and this is normal, right? Like, there's nothing revolutionary here. We'll get there. Let's talk about reactivity. Here's one of the ways where we look at the web ecosystem, and sometimes we learn, and sometimes we offer new things. This is something that we learned. You know what's a really good idea? Improving change detection. Now, if you're a React developer, here's how you figure out when to redraw the screen. Whenever you encounter a set state, right? Set state is kind of like the core thing. It's pretty nice. It's declarative kind of because you're like, okay, explicitly here. Now in Angular, the way this works to get this experience where it can figure out what's happening as you're inputting, we have this idea called zones. Now zones is a really good idea at first. Here's what a zone does. No set state, no nothing. You just make your changes and it figures out on its own what needs to be updated on the screen. That's what a zone does. And that sounds great. Agree or disagree? Does it sound good or not to just be able to just make your changes? Kind of sounds good. Guess what we found out? At scale, it's problematic. At scale, like when you get a big enough application, it becomes a problem. Remember I said the sharp edges? This is the sharpest of the edges, right? Like seriously, this is the Ginsu knife right here is the change detection because then you have to know so much about how Angular works to optimize under the zone change detection. Okay, fine, we'll do better. Now we're going to do signals, and not like a special signals, just signals. So if you've seen signals before, if you're familiar with the concept, we have signals in Angular now, and signals will drive our change detection. And here's what a signal is at a high level, right? So let's talk about these three reactive primitives. That's what we're going to call them. So we got to do something fancy, right? We got to call them reactive primitives. But these are three parts built into the framework that you can get now. You got a signal, a computed, and an effect. These are the three kind of core components behind this idea. Now, for a signal, think of a box, like just having in your mind a box. Inside the box, there's like this value, right? Inside the special box. But what is really special about this box is that this box knows where in the application it's being used. It just knows. Don't worry about how it knows. It just knows. So that when the value inside the box changes, it can signal to everywhere it's being used, hey, you need to update. And that's it. Do you have to like do some manual thing to say, okay, so subscribe and no, not you have to subscribe to anything. A signal just knows where it's being used and it knows how to update. Once you update it, it's just done. That's it. Behind the scenes, there's there's some wiring behind the scenes, right? Nope. You just create a signal. I know Joe's so skeptical. This is how it works. You just create a signal. For all you folks who never did AngularJS, that's an AngularJS joke. Yeah. No, it's so again, we didn't come up with this. This is like if you like Solid. Solid uses signal. Like Ryan Carniato is he didn't create him, but he's been like a big champion. Ah. See, this is I told you we did some special stuff. It's not only in components. You can use signals in your whole application in Angular, not only in the component. Right. Okay, I understand your question. So the distinction being made is like right now when you're checking for updates in your component tree, you have to like kind of go through them all to figure out what's happening by default. If you use a signal, you don't have to go through the whole tree. You can just go precision level, like very surgical level of just this one spot. But what I was saying about you can use it in any application, in part of your application, you can put a signal in the service, right? And kind of hold your state if you want. And if your state updates anywhere you use that state, that place will be updated as well. Right. So here's a good way to think about a signal. Let's say you have a signal for your first name and your last name, and then you update the value of these things, then it's just going to update your application. I know it sounds very auto-magically, but again, if your problem with that is not with like Angular, this is the way signals, that's why signals are so popular, because they give you this level of abstraction and but this level of control. So that's just how signals work. Really, really cool stuff. Compute it. Now, this is the one that I really like. And I was just on the podcast with Wes Boss, and he gave this fantastic example of a computed. A computed is a way to have a value that's derived on other signals, which sounds kind of like, what? What does that even mean? Think about this. Think about an e-commerce app and think about these shopping carts, right? And at any point, you can see the total value of the shopping cart at any point. A computed is a great way to maintain that. So that way, when you add a new thing to the shopping cart, it automatically updates because the value of the shopping cart is based on the value of the items inside. So that's how a computed could work, right? You can have your big shopping cart, and then you can have items inside, and then that's how you can figure out your values. Yeah. You're not. You cannot sound stupid. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is correct. That is that. That's what you're describing. Yeah. So a less complex example that I gave is if you look about like full name, you can always derive the person's full name if you have the first name and the surname. right? If you have those two, you can always derive it. And instead of you having to keep track of a separate variable that you have to say, oh, is there an update someplace? It'll only update if one of the other two things updated. So if I'm like, okay, I'm actually going to go by, Simona's going to change the name from Simona Codin to Simona Tversky, then the full name should update. But I don't want to manage that. I don't want to keep track of those things. You use a computer to manage those things. Oh, I thought you had a question. This is good. No, we're good. And then the last thing is effect. Effect is this idea that if maybe you want to do something if these things change, like you want some manual intervention, well, you use an effect. So if a signal in the effect function changes, the effect will run. Okay, so here's an example. If the first name or last name changes, then it'll run this console.log, right? Like that's how that works with signals. How's this feeling? Give me like some rating. Okay, so 5 means it feels good. 0 means it's like horrible. Like for understanding, like give me somewhere in the range of there. Where y'all at right now? Like about a 5 feels good. Kind of about a 4, a 3. Okay, that feels good. No, that's the right way for me to kind of understand how much it keeps talking or not talk, right, about something. You don't have to. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. Yeah, we'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. I know. This may come back to bite us later because, like, at scale, we couldn't take care of effects, right? Like, we might find that out, but I don't think that's gonna be the case. But yeah. Take up examples. Oh, sure, sure. Like once, like you want to do this once. I totally get that. I don't know what our solution for that is, or at the top of my head, because we're still working on effects. So signal and computed are stable. You can use that right now in production. Effect, we found some edge cases. We're like, oh, that's weird. All right, we're gonna keep working on it. Yeah, sure. We've been honest. Like we're like, oh, that's weird. Like our TL, like team leader, one of our team leads who's on this project was like, hey, so we were gonna promote effect to production like level out of developer preview, but I found these 3 cases, and we can't ship it like this, not for production. And we said, okay, well, let's keep working on it. Being honest, yeah. Yeah, well, I'm angry guy. I'm not too many. Yeah. But I wonder if it makes sense to talk now or later. Change detection and the whole tree, right? Like it's a build and check, and by default the whole tree is checked. Then we have that way we don't push change detection strategy to check subtree. Now we're getting to that with signals we can get and check like per component. That's right. And the whole thing now change detection needs to work less, not to work that hard, given the performance boost. All right, and I was wondering, like, if it makes sense to touch on it now. Or... Yeah, that's actually next. It's no, it's great. It's great. No, this is great. No, it's good. I'm also looking at this chat because people are actually in here like chatting. It's like a lot of comments. Oh, that's me. What? That's a transcript. I was like, man, that's a really active. I'm like, what's going on? That's me. All right. So this is gonna no, it's fine. I think it's funny. No, leave it, leave it. So build faster as by default. That's what we're promising with signals. Yeah. Mm. Well, now we're gonna find out. Mm-hmm. Potentially, like I can't promise on that one just yet, but so that's the thing you were talking about, the precision updates, right? So reactivity everywhere. I already talked about that being like, right now people think of like, oh, could I only use a signal in a component? But no, you can use it other places, right? To solve this problem. Here's the specific problem that it gives you, or the value that it gives you. Because some of you who may have used Angular, you may be thinking like, oh, what about RxJS and observables versus a signal? Well, think about what observables solve for. Observables are for asynchronous, unpredictable stream of events. When I say unpredictable, don't conflate that with like unstable. Unpredictable means that you don't know when it's going to happen, if it's going to happen, or how many times it will happen. But it's asynchronous, right? It happens over time that you cannot predict, right? That's what ArcGIS is, like the bread and butter of that library. And that's what it was meant for. But because we didn't have a better solution in Angular, people put ArcGIS everywhere because it was the best thing they could do to get something like a signal type of experience, where if your state changes in one part of your application, you want other parts to know so you can subscribe and do all this kind of stuff. Okay, how am I doing on time? I feel like I've been talking a lot. Oh, we're going to be done. I'm going to keep. I'm not going to go for another 40 minutes. No way. All right. Okay, I can do that. I can do that. That's for sure. Then precision updates. This is the big magic that we're going to get out of signals for us on the Angular team, right? And for you as Angular developers, is that, as Eugene was just saying, right now our change detection strategy is that, like, you have your component tree and you have to like search through the whole component tree to find out which ones are dirty, which ones are not. Dirty means there needs to be an update, something changed, right? And then we have one that's slightly better where you can search a subtree, like, okay, only this part. This is like only update the parts of the application that changed, only those parts. You don't have to go searching. You know why you don't have to search? Because a signal knows where it's been used. That's the value. So remember I said that box, it just knows where it's being used. Because of those wires that's going from the box to the right places, we can say, oh, only update that. Now, we're not there yet with the precision updates. We're still working on it because it's a big thing. This is a big change, right? The way we're literally changing the way change detection works, how we decide when to re-render the screen. This is a big change. So we're working hard on it, but it's coming. But here's the rad thing. Lightweight dependency. It's only 2 kilobytes for our library right now. And it's built in, but I'm saying the addition is only 2 kilobytes. So you don't have to worry about like pulling down a ton of like extra JavaScript. But Joe, backwards compatible. Yes. No. The signals update. The signals, all of that logic for signals is only 2 kilobytes. Yeah. Not Angular 2 kilobytes. No, only that part. But backwards compatible, meaning you can still use traditional change detection as long as you need to. But we're also going to be working, we're not going to be working, we're working with all these different groups. Like, these are different like state management tools and observables and stuff like that. We're talking to all these teams like, hey, we're doing signals. Let's make sure that we're working together versus us just railroading everybody, right? And just doing our own thing and saying, catch up. No, we're working together. Told you. Remember I said we changed? Like, I'm trying to tell you. Okay. So optional zones is coming in the future. That's what we're working on. So you don't even need the zone idea. Local change detection. That's what we're talking about, precision updates. Simplifying the API. If you can just use signals, that is a simplification of the API. Because if you came from a different framework like Solid or something else that uses signals, or runes and so, I think runes are very similar to signals, right? These concepts are now portable for you. You can choose whatever tool you want. And then we're working on evolving the ecosystem. Can we do anything to help signals be useful for other people? Can we? We don't know, but we'll try. We'll try to help and contribute. Like I said, signals and computed are stable now, so you can use that. And then effect is still in developer preview. All right, I'm gonna go a little bit faster so we can get to the point that I'm gonna like change. Like you're gonna need some like support after I get through this last part. Let me tell you that now. Okay, hydration. Here's the thing that we had. Not hydration. This is what we used to do. We used to render the application on the server, ship you all the HTML, then it gets to the client, then we would destroy the DOM and re-render it with all the Angular goodness on it. Can anybody imagine what that does in the browser? Any ideas? A flash, that's right. This is literally it. You get the flicker. That's what that flicker was. The flicker was literally us being like, oh, wait. You know, show them real quick and then quickly rebuild it. Here you go. That's what you asked for. You know, kind of like a magic trick. That's a little too slow where you can like see the person like doing it with their hand like beforehand. That's what happened with us, right? And it was not hydration. It just wasn't hydration. It was server-side rendered application without any like event handlers. And then we had to like actually add all the stuff by re-rendering from scratch. But we got better because now we have hydration in Angular. We will server-side render. We will still keep the server-side rendered code. And we'll just add on the missing pieces like your event handlers and anything else that you need. Okay, so traditional hydration that you think of, we're doing it now. Okay, but you might be saying, but Mark, Let me say, but Mark, what about my existing application? How do I enable this? Fine, one line. One line. Okay, so if you're already using an application, and this works with standalone or not standalone applications, right? But there you go. That's how you do it. One line, provide client hydration. And then your application will now, if you're already doing server-side rendering and you want to take advantage of the new stuff, you don't have to rewire, you don't have to rewrite, you don't have to do any of that stuff. Add one line. Yes. What would Good question. Now, when you create an application, we're asking you because there's no reason not to do it. Now we're asking you, do you just want this? Good question. Look at y'all. See, that's why I love this group because you all are like, you couldn't do that if you weren't like tracking with me. So we're all having a good time. So that makes me happy. Yeah. But yes, we're asking you right in the front, like, hey, do you want server-side rendering? Because you can have it. Do you want it? We just do it for you. We'll set you up. Yeah. Ah, right now we use Node and Express as your backend stack. And so if you say yes to this question, we'll scaffold out all the like basics that you need for your full stack. We'll do the whole thing, and then but wire it our way, right? Like, so you may want to make some changes, which you can make your changes, but we'll give you the default thing. Yeah. Oh, good question. Not that I'm aware of, but I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't come up later that people are like, okay, we want to take advantage of this as well with other stacks. I'm sure as more people make requests for these types of things, we can start talking about it. I don't know anything right offhand. Do you know anything, Eugene, about? Yeah, I don't know any other things, but we know right now we have it working with Node and Express. Yeah. Good question. Excellent question. All right, so not exactly what you want, Joe. Not exactly what you want, but in the vein of answering that problem that you had, because you said sometimes you want to do something just once, right? And sometimes what you want to do is you need some type of way to tap into the life cycle of the rendering of your application to do something once, but you don't want to happen every time you render, the screen gets re-rendered. So we have after render and after next render. So let's say we have like a chart component that you want to initialize, right? You can put in after next render, like, okay, after you got your screen and then after the next render, right, run this, but you don't do it once. Right. And this is on the client side. So this is a part of the story for the server side in a way, because you want to do some things only on the client side, but you don't want to do them on the server side. So this only runs on the client. And then it gives you some more fine-grained control to say, okay, after the next render, also instantiate this thing so we can have this a part of our, like, on our application. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Oh, you mean like if you're like directly like calling like document.write or something like that? Yeah. So here's the good and bad thing about that. We're one of the only server-side rendering frameworks that allows you to, like, we do DOM emulation on the server side. So if your document.write sneaks in there or your document.something sneaks in there, we deal with it, but it limits us in some ways because now we have to check for that, right? And we have to like deal with that. And so if you use like next, you can't even do that. Like it's like, nope, don't do it. We allow it because a couple of reasons. One reason I can speak to directly is that some of our components from there are like first party components for Angular, right? They do some like DOM manipulation. And so we can't like break our own stuff, right? Like you just can't do that. And you can't break people who use those things, right? So we have to allow it. But this is something that we're trying to figure out what's the best solution for the future on like what to do. Yeah. Yeah, but like I said, next you like, nope, don't do it. Can't do that stuff. Stop it. Yeah. All right. Not that you need more motivation, but you can get a 40x like up improvement, right? For that cumulative layout shift if you just pre-render. And the CLS is when you start rendering and things start moving around. Like you can fix that. You can get an improvement 40x. That's what Chrome said. All right, if you start using stuff like server-side rendering, we think they're right. They're pretty cool team. All right, but hydration is really great though, because that logic contentful paint that'd be like hurting y'all on the lighthouse scores. Like y'all be like suffering. All right, then use hydration and get a 45% improvement. I'm trying to give y'all free stuff and y'all still like it can't be that good. It actually is. It's just good. accept it. Okay, wait. Wait, no, this is it. Now we're about to cook. I'm sorry, I went too fast, but I just had hydration is stable, meaning like we announced in the developer preview in May. Now it's stable as of last week. So production ready. Now, cook. If I haven't convinced you already, it's going to be over. This is it. All right. So when you see what I'm going to show you, you will not believe your eyes. I'm going to tell you. You just got to trust me. All right. Here's what's really hard. Remember we talked about Angular being hard to learn? Try to reason about this if and else statement. So you read it at first. Okay, like, okay, so if it's a human, all right, render this code. Do we feel good there? Thumbs up. Like that's kind of reasonable if this is a human, okay? Now, how about that else? What does else hashtag robot even mean? Before I'm about to show you, yeah. Yeah, right. It's wrong because you're like, okay, what's else? It is. No, it is. There's lots of problems because you got templates and ng template, and you're just like, bruh, all I want to do is do if else. That's all I'm trying to do. We heard you. That's right. Because now, let me show you what we got. Because this is a question that our TLs ask. We all ask ourselves all the time in meetings. Can we do better? I wrote an article about whether to use inject or constructor-based parameters because people are asking. And the article I wrote, they said, yeah, but we can make a recommendation, but can we do better? Right? We asked this question for real. Here's better. This is better. Now, before you start saying looks like Blazor and every other like template language or whatever, or JSPs, I mean, good ideas are good ideas, right? This is good ideas are good ideas. This is a good idea. We didn't even think of this though. We did not think of this syntax. We put out our idea for the syntax, and the community said, no, we do not like this. Then we conducted a user study, and the users were like, no, we do not like this. We want this syntax. So we listened. So here's how this works. If the user is human, render this. Else if, super readable, user is a robot, render this. Else, profile is unknown. This is it. And guess what? Guess what makes it so nice? You can put multiple components or tags in between those braces, right? It's not limited to one thing. You can group those things in there, and this is just really clean. And the thing that we were going for is to make it easy to reason about. Even if you don't know Angular, you can read this and at least have an idea of what's happening, which is really important. Okay, do me a favor. Yeah, before I go on, yes. We, I didn't include loops in this presentation, but we did something special with loops. So we had equally as horrible looking like syntax for loops. And now we have at for, but here's the wild thing. So here's the difference. Go back a little bit. These things are called directives. Like this is a directive, right? And so this is like extra code that has to get loaded in here. And it's actually not like native to the template. You could write ngif as a developer, like you could write this code and make it. A lot of people did write their own versions of this. This new thing that I showed you, this is actually like built in to the template. So no dependencies, no nothing like that. So you know what it allows us to do? Be closer to the metal of the template rendering engine, right? Now with our new for loop, it's so fast now that if you look at an independent, we didn't even do the study. Somebody put a chart up of all the frameworks. We are number 2 now. We went from like number like blah, like I don't know, like 15 or 16 to like number 2 for rendering and swapping rows with the new syntax because it's so close to the metal. The only thing that's faster and only by a little bit is solid. That's the only thing that's faster now for that use case, right? So you can be up to 90% faster. That is, I know that sounds like a made up number, but in certain use cases, not all use cases, you can get up to a 90% performance boost in the rendering because of this new syntax. This new syntax opened the door for what I'm about to show you next. Okay, do me a favor, just trust me. Put your hands by your side if you could. Just trust me. Just trust me. And then hold on to your seats because it's about to get off us. All right, let me introduce you into what I believe is the future for just just the future. Other frameworks will do this, and uh, other frameworks will do this. And then you're like, oh man, I remember Mark was saying this like in 2023, and now everybody's doing this. This is one of those moments. Remember I told you about NG model and then how easy it was for you to like change the screen? This is our next moment like that. Let me tell you about what a deferrable view is. A deferrable view is declarative, lazy loading, and prefetching. Right now, just yell it out to me. When you have to define anything for lazy loading, where do you put that logic? Usually in your router. In your router, you put your logic for lazy loading most likely. And you usually can only lazy load a route. What if I told you that you could lazy load parts of your template? Parts of your component. You could pick the parts of your component to lazy load, and that the code to do it was declarative, not some logic that lives someplace in some service right in the template. What if I told you that was true? You're probably like, no, it's not. Let me show you. Okay, I got a button with a variable called trigger. So that's just it's kind of think of it like an ID, right? I can just identify in Angular by hashtag trigger. And the thing that I want is that when I click this button, I want to load the recommended movies. Now, if you do this in any other language, you got to do some type of event handler, and then you got to do some type of dynamic component loading. True or false? Am I making stuff up? I'm not making this up. Let me tell you what you got to do in Angular. Just this. Now, this is a lot because I'm showing you how verbose and robust this is. So I say on interaction with the trigger. On interaction, meaning if you click on it with the trigger. Okay, that those two match right there, right? Then you load your recommended movies. That's it. Yep. It's a template variable. That's what it's called. Yeah, a template variable. Yeah. Oh no, it's a good question. I I believe that the interaction covers clicks right now, but we have more ways to track things. If you want to hover and stuff like that, we got more. I got you. That's a good question. I'm gonna show you stuff. I'm gonna show you. Watch. I'm gonna show you. Okay. So you can load that. But wait, you might say, well, Mark, what about while it's loading, I want to do something nice. Again, you got to go back to your JavaScript, or you can use Angular and declare your loading block and say, while this thing is loading, show this loading HTML. Show this loading component. Show whatever you want to show. You get to choose. But you say, but Mark, what about if something goes wrong? Fine. Show your error state. And we're still in the template. We are not back in the component class doing anything. This is still the template. But wait, what about before I do anything? What about before the loading triggers? Okay, put a placeholder. You put anything. Now, this is actually lazy loading of the recommended movies component, meaning that it is not shipped with the bundle to the browser. It's not. This is not just like, oh, we didn't load it into the JVM or the JavaScript, like, browser engine. No, it wasn't shipped. All right, wait. We got on idle, meaning if the browser does an idle state, then you can do a lazy load then. Fine. Or let's say you're gonna wait until your component is finished rendering, then immediate you use that case. So when everything's finished, then start the load of that thing last, right? Right. Well, when you're rendered. Sorry. So like when that part of the template gets rendered to the screen, then that means it's ready if you do on immediate. Okay, fine. Or what's one a delay? Like what if I just want to say, yeah, I know people usually hang around for 5 seconds before, and then I want to just kind of lazy load, then fine. Put a time in there. Maybe I want to do it if they scroll it into the viewport. Or you got the interaction, like I said, or hover. So remember you asked about it was only clicks. You also got on hover, right? That's also an option. Okay. Right. Interaction is on click. From I don't know if it covers anything else though. I'll ask. I don't know. We can test it because this is yeah, we can test it. I already remember I was spinning up a new app before I started because I knew y'all was gonna be asking these questions. So yeah. Sure, I get that. That's good feedback. But you might be saying to yourself, well, what if I want to define my own trigger? Because the ones you gave me were good, but I'm smarter than you, Google. I have my own use cases. We believe you. You probably are. So here's what you do. Okay, you put a when in there. So let's say when the count that's defined as a part of your like a variable in your class someplace, right? When it gets to 5, then load. Any expression. As long as you can get a truthy or falsy out of it, yes. Any expression goes there. But wait, remember I told you we asked ourselves this, can we do better? Fine, we can. You can also prefetch. So maybe you want to prefetch but not render onto the screen. So you can combine these things together now. You can on interaction, or you can start to prefetch it when the browser sends the idle event. Or you can prefetch and add a when to it and say, well, prefetch it when this thing is true, when this expression is true. Right? So you got a lot of control there. What's up, Joe? It can be. You can have multiple defer blocks, right? So you can, so these are just two examples of loading the same component. Was just, that is. Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. Sorry, it's just hard to get it all on one line. That's my bad. Yeah. But this is all, and this is all the syntax you need because again, you might be thinking like, well, there has to be a configuration someplace. There has to be some place where I define all this. No, there is not. This is it. But I will show you. I will show you even more. Okay, I'm going to show you live. You know, just for kicks and giggles, right? All right. So how was that? Was that better? Yeah, I told you. But hey, I said be honest with me once I showed you, right? If it was cool or not, or if it was different. Like I said, there isn't a framework doing this type of thing. So when I said it is another moment like the NG model moment, I do mean that because this is a good idea, not because we made it and like, oh, Google's so smart. It's just, no, this is a good idea to be able to have declarative lazy loading and prefetching. And it wouldn't make sense to me to not see other frameworks pick this up. This is a good idea. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
It's like that, but once, yeah, I mean, when you think about how you have to use suspense or error boundaries, like you're never quite sure where the shit's gonna fire off and what's gonna hold on to it. So I do think, because at first I was like, why not just use JSX? But then
Right.
yeah,
Right.
it's smart to throw in the else in because I'm like, oh, you don't like,
Uh-huh.
So I think it's too fast.
But I'm gonna slow the magic trick down because I don't want you to feel that way. I want you to feel like really good about just the whole experience. So let's do this. So I made a project. That's all this is on the screen. It's just a new project. Yeah. What do you want to happen? Mhm. Where is? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we take the child component, now you're fetching. Yeah, so it's a child component. Go with recoil. With recoil, like it didn't matter where you're loading. Anything new.
All right. No, no, I love the conversation. No, it's fine. It's fine. So if your component, whatever your component does, it will continue to do once it's loaded, right? Right. Well, no, we define declaratively the placeholder. If you have inside your component extra logic for a placeholder, then you get to define that yourself. Yes.
just loading the component, or if the component itself had to fetch some data and it had its own understanding.
Yes, yes.
For like it's waiting on data. Does that outer statement that says defer this component know that component is loading stuff, or is there any way to tell the defer statement like wait until they custom?
Yeah, at this time, we don't have that level where you can like reach into the thing that's loading and give it more, get from control. Because somebody else also asked me, is there any event for me to know that the loading is done? Right? Like that's something we don't do yet, but this is still developer preview. But that's like the next generation, right? So it's coming. We're working on stuff. But this is a good question. So could we do something like if the loading movies like have some type of control over inside of the movie's components, make fetch data or whatever? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but it's a good question that I will definitely. When I say I talk to the team about it, we are going to talk about it. Check this out. I want to just do some coding because I want y'all to have like a good feeling about all of this, right? So what's really interesting is this. It's just HTML, right? So what's a good component is like section. I haven't live coded in front of the audience during a talk in a long time. Nobody ever asked me to do this. You didn't ask me, but I want you to ask me, so I did anyway. All right. So let's say that we'll do at defer. Okay, we're not going to put anything in there first, like any condition. Let's start with just the basic defer. Okay, but before we do that, we need a component to defer load, right? We won't have any other components. Let's just make one. So here I'm going to do ng for Angular, G for generate, C for component. You don't have to remember it like that. You can type the whole word out, but I just know that it's G, C. Yeah, right. You just get there, right? So let's say I do want to do movies, or let's say no. Somebody like, man, see, it's fixed. You're using movies on purpose. It works at any component. I just do books. Okay, let's do books. All right. Yeah, I want people to know I'm using this. All right, super rad. Yeah. Oh no, it's telemetry on how we're using it. Yeah. So you can say no to this. It doesn't hurt my feelings. All right. So we got a component. Let's make sure this component is available to our thing here. This is the thing that we're working on. This is not like that ergonomic. First thing we get from anybody ever doing React. Why do I have to import it twice? Hey, we get it. We don't like this, but this is what you have to do for now. Okay, we're actively trying to figure out what is a way for us to import at the file level and let you just use it. Just not there yet. Okay, baby steps, right? One step at a time. Okay, so now I just want to show you that we can load this book component, right? So if I do app, I think it's app books, yeah. So how do I get all the suggestions? We have this thing called the Angular language service that's maintained by our team that plugs into your IDE and helps you to be able to do things like syntax highlighting, or I can actually dive into that component, right? Like all that stuff just works in the template. No magic. That's just a plugin that we give you for free. It just comes with it. Okay. All right. So why don't you like this? Oh my God. Oh wait, are you mad because of this? Oh no, you're not mad about that. You're mad because of this. Okay. All right. Got our defer. So what I would like to see, if I do ng serve, which is using Vite as the build server. I know y'all over here mad like, man, it ain't using Vite, using Webpack. It's not. It's using Vite, and we get ES build as a part of our build chain now. Okay, so we're using Vite. See how fast that was? Oh wait. Oh, see that down there? Oh wait, hold on. Okay. I don't know if you see this lazy loaded chunk. You see that? But our books component is already a lazy loaded chunk, and you can see what the raw size of it is. It's 1.19 kilobytes. So, but that doesn't prove anything. This could say anything. So let's look in the browser and open up the developer Chrome developer tools and see it actually like show up right on the defer. But it'd be on idle. So hopefully this doesn't embarrass me. Do not embarrass me. All right, let's see if I do a new window. Okay, local host 4200. Okay, it came so fast, but I'm gonna refresh. It was lightning fast, but I wonder what can we do about that? Do we have any ideas? How can we like make it not be so fast? There you go. But let's go to this network and let's refresh. All right. right, let's see if we can find books in here, because this is like, wait, what? Is it chunk maybe? Is this our book? Let's see. Oh yeah, it is our book. Okay, hold on, I'm gonna zoom in. Don't worry. I can't zoom in. I'm so used to doing this a different way. Let me scroll up so you can see. But here's our books component, right? Came in a separate chunk as promised. Okay, but that's not that's okay. That's okay. But let's just experiment. Let's have some fun together. This is brand new syntax. So if I make a mistake, help me, because this is literally just released on Monday the 6th, right? This is all brand new. So help me if I get stuck. All right. We got a few minutes. Oh no, it's 7:45. I think we gotta like wrap it up. All right. Okay, I'll show you one thing. What do you want to see the most? Tell me what you want to see. Like on timer, on viewport, on what? Let's do on timer, and then let's do 5 seconds. Is that too long? I just don't want it to happen too fast. And you want 2 seconds? Okay, okay, it's gonna. All right, and then see, there it is. You saw it come in later. Yeah, but it came in 2 seconds. So can I just clear that out? Okay, let's see. So refresh, nothing's there. But let me prove to you that it wasn't just a blank page. I am loaded. Me too. Okay, so this is like surrounding it, right? So that way you can just know that the page literally continue, because this is non-blocking. Yeah, so this is, see, it's non-blocking. This happened asynchronously. I will. I will. See? Yeah, non-blocking. But you said a placeholder. Let's see. I think it's like at placeholder. Okay, that sounds right. But this is before. Okay, this is before the load, right? Before the load. Okay, super rad. Okay, we go back before the load. Book works. All right. So, but you know what we did all that? We did all of that in the template. No fancy sneaking around. You saw me do everything right here. That's why I said this is magic. Like, this is the next level. When we announced this, literally internally, I looked at the team who built this and I was like, you all are just like next level. I have no idea how you did this, but this is next level. And I told them that. I was like, this is a special moment for Angular. And this is why, because that was all of that logic to lazy load a part of the page. A part of the page, not the route. The route loaded normally, eagerly. We loaded a small sliver of our page, lazy loaded. I didn't have to set up a special server. Did you notice that? No special server. It was just our normal build server. Pretty good. Okay, friends, I know we're out of time. We gotta get out of here, but thank you so much for hanging out with me today and letting me come around. I really appreciate you folks. Go out and build some great apps. Thank you.